Hello everyone, I'm Stan from Stan GBB Builds, and today I'm gonna talk about the second part of my GBBR bullpup build series. In this part I'm gonna be talking about my lower receiver, mainly the Alyankit and the integration into the lower and in combination with both the bullpup kit and my upper. So to start off I'm gonna talk about my trigger mech. This trigger mech is fully upgraded with Ratec parts, trigger, hammer, valve knocker and semi-auto disconnector. Yeah, all of the parts that are in the Ratec kit. Second, I've removed the full autos here and I've modified the selector little part here to be able to only shoot semi-automatic. This is due to my playstyle mostly, and being able to use higher FPS depending on the orga I'm using it. Mostly I run this thing on 350 FPS due to local laws. So, why the cuts in the Mac box? Easily said, without those you cannot install the kit. You will not have any place to run your hose down. It's that simple. Why is it curved around here? That was because my first kit. Before this kit, this is a V3. I had a V3 prototype. It was a bit different from this one, and I was using the plastic pipe provided by fabricator of this kit. The second thing in this lower receiver, the Alyankit. What is an Alyankit? Alyankit is a replacement for the top of your green gas magazines or CO2 magazines, depending on what you're using, and it enables you to use HPA in your GBBR, making it more cost effective and more consistent at the same time. You can do that by tapping your existing gas magazines, but you're always reattaching an HPA line to those magazines. With this you can just use regular AEG magazines. It's quite easy. So what's special about this kit? In mine I've added copper tubing to attach it more easily in my bullpup. If you use the tube provided, it's very easy to use on just the regular Scar or other models, but in my case copper tubing was a more solid idea. So a little bit about the build of the Alyankit. The Alyankit consists out of two main parts, the front part and the back part. The front part is fully made out of aluminium. It has 4 screws in total, 2 on each side. These are used to attach it to the lower receiver. And on this side there are 2 grub screws, one to hold the BB feed tube and the other one to hold the back piece in place. The feed lips and the gas routers are not included, and those need to be modified before installation. Also, even if you screw them in place, you need to glue the gas router into place to give the best air seal. Otherwise you will have leaks and problems while using lower pressure. The valve piece comes without the copper tubing. That's quite logical. This is something I've made to accommodate my bullpup build. It comes with a hose attachment where you slide the hose simply over, and that's it. How does this thing work? You have a valve in the back, your valve knocker knocks it, front piece goes open. Simple as that. That's literally the back piece. It's fully made out of brass. It has to be positioned fairly right, otherwise you will have problems with sealing, mostly on these parts and maybe on the back part here. In very rare occasions you could get some leaks behind the ring around here. I've had to glue it. It's very uncommon for that to happen. that was just because I've been tinkering around with it and I was a bit too heavy on it. My own fault, not the creator's fault at all. So, for the installation of the Alyankit, there are a lot of things you have to take in mind while doing this. One of the first is the body itself. This seems like a quite normal standard WE Scar body, but yeah, there are at first holes here. Normally this kit is routed out of the back of the standard WE Scar, but because mine is a bullpup, I had to accommodate for that and use a different method. Also, you have 4 screw holes, 2 on each side. This is my second lower I'm using, and even then I had some difficulties with installing the kits. It's not that easy to give correct measurements due to the variability of the feed lips and the gas router height. You have to cut them yourself, and even if you cut yourself, you've got never the same exact measurements that are given. This is a lot of trial and error. I've gone through a bunch. I mean, a bunch of gas routers. Feed lips, I'm only on my first, to be true. These are all gas routers I've used. I've got probably even more, but wait, yep, another one. All of them I've used, I've cut them, and I've worn down just because they were a little bit too high, and they focus, you fuck. Camera focus, come on. Yeah, I'm just gonna insert a picture. The gas routers are fucked up because the nozzle just ripped over them and cut a piece out of them. Some were misaligned, both to the right, to the left. The backs of them were raised too high. This, that. I've gone through a lot of them, and in the one that's here, I've never got any trouble. That's the one that I got correct. Those gas routers don't cost a lot, and they're easy replaced. But that said, those holes have very specific alignments to be used. Those holes, the center of the holes are 1 centimeter down, so parallel to the top of the top receiver. Those are 1 centimeter down, and starting from the right side of this hole, this one is 23 millimeters out, and the next one is 46, 47, somewhere between that. It's, as I said, it varies a little bit depending on the kit. These kits are handmade, so millimeters out of each other. Even after you have done that, you need sometimes Dremel some bits by, your holes get bigger. That's why there's an O-ring, urethane O-ring inside of it, so I can attach a screw to it without any problems. Other than that, this hole is very big. I've had to drill it 2 times just to install the bullpup kit that's laying there. Just make it center and make it as much to the front as possible. That's all I can say about it. It makes it a lot easier. For the inside, you have to cut down those sides to allow the hose to be easier to maneuver through. Same with those specs in the middle. Without those, with those, you're not gonna be able to use the hose, so just cut them down. It's very easy with Dremel. I've got one to do that, so that's the low receiver. Same goes for the Mac box. I've already said it. I had to cut down the top piece of it and the back piece. Installing the kit into the body. To start off, that's quite easily. First thing to do, just as normal, insert the trigger box into the lower receiver. That's the first part, it's nothing that hard. So next up, the installation of the Alyankit into the upper itself. After you've inserted the trigger box, in the way I've set it up, with the hole here and the tubing, I just have to insert the tubing, slide it in, and it clicks right in place. Simple as that. After installing the 4 screws to secure the kit, you're practically done. This kit is mostly self-contained and only will need some minor adjustments depending on how the hose is running. In my case, I've added a zip tie right around here through one of the holes of the full auto sear, just because I don't want the kit to wiggle around. This pipe, if it contacts my bolt, it could damage the hose, it could damage the whole system, and I don't want that. That's why I have some extra security right down here just to prevent that from happening. Nothing special. So, showing the function of this kit. At first I want to give a safety to the people that use this kit. If you first start using this kit, you have to follow a certain order when attaching the HPA line, remote line, to your model. Why? As you see here, the hammer has gone up and the pin is pointed in. If your bolt is closed and your hammer is down, if you at that moment attach the HPA line to your lower, you will fire once. Even if there's no BB in it, it will cause the gun to cycle and maybe cause it to fire a BB. It's just a safety warning. Don't do it when the hammer is not cocked. So, when, as I said that, cock the hammer, insert the HPA line, and we can start testing. So, after installing our HPA line, when the hammer is down, we can start testing. I've connected my remote HPA line. This is running at the moment at 100 psi. Just as normal, when you pull hammer, this will release air. As you hear, I folded the hammer down because it releases a lot of air very quick. That's not what you want. You can use it. Seal is pretty damn good. Just by holding it down, it shows that this kit is capable of consistent pressure under use. If done right, you will have no air leaks anywhere. In my case, I have a lot of points that could possibly leak, but I have all patched them up and no leaks are happening at the moment. So, to answer some general questions, why I bought the Alyankit and why I'm running this. First one, why? Why did I buy the Alyankit? I had used the gas magazines before and they're not gas efficient. I'm going through one bottle every game just to run this thing. I wanted some more economic way to run this. I'm just a student. Gas bottles are pretty damn expensive. HPA in my case is one-time expense and then I can refill for. Why did I buy specifically the Alyankit? When I bought this, at that time there was a lot of bad rap going around for the Alyankits, mostly due to their V1, V2 designs that were more like prototypes than anything else. They worked, but in specific circumstances. A lot of people tinkered with them. Made some got them working very beautifully. Some just gave up on it because they didn't spend a lot of time installing it. I've had some similar experience with the prototype of the V3 kit of this version, and I've sent a lot of my problems to the maker himself, and he adapted to those with a recommendation from others, and he ended up with this version. Compared to the prototype, this thing took 2-3 hours to install decently. I not counting the hours for copper tubing. The prototype took me like 3 weeks to install, so compare those two, this one clearly wins and is a better product than the prototype. Why did I even buy the kit when the store had so much bad ref going for it? I believe that small companies that put out very interesting products have minds behind it that want to evolve to make their products better, and that's why I bought the Alyankit. I had faith in it that it would evolve to a better product in its whole, and it did. For me, it did. Comparing both the prototype V3 and the V3, he's willing to listen to his customers, and he does provide help, good information and other things by himself. Just ask him and he will answer within 2 hours, sometimes the next day, but he will answer. That's why I like the product and the customer service behind it. Some people will ask, why the copper tubing? In my case, I've tried running the hoses, but I found out those were, due to the curve it needed to make, not the best choice. Mostly due to the hose sticking up a little amount, but just enough to touch the bolt. So while the bolt was traveling back and forth, it just started to slice up the tubing over the top. So after some time, my tubing started to be roughed up on the other side, and I didn't want it to rupture mid-game. That's why I've gone to copper tubing, just to give it a more rigid base and no possibility for it to contact the bolt. Also, the L connection piece was intended because I have a very sturdy platform here, but I still had to guide the tubing through the bullpup kit when installing it, and this way I could change this tubing out even after a lot of use. If this wears down, I just can change it without any problem. The only downside is this thing is glued in place. I'm never getting this off. If I want to replace this thing, I have to replace the whole back piece and the tubing at once. That's a con, but I'm taking it. I've tried my best and it worked out very good, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So, to conclude this video about the kit, I'm gonna link in the description the Facebook page, the YouTube page, and their official site of Alyanairsoft. I find that he deserves more attention in the GBBR world due to the products he makes. He's now more famous for his high cap, HPA high caps, and he deserves it very well. Other than that, if you have any questions about this build, this kit is slower, just cast them in the comments below on my Facebook page, where you can contact me. I will answer them if possible. Yeah, this is it. Thanks and bye bye.